All right, what's going on, fellas? We are live. We're going to tackle some Mitten 2 drafts on Underdog Fantasy. Before we get into it, we were on a little bit of a 3 or 4 day hiatus since Sunday's games because your boy was incapacitated with the stomach flu. So hopefully you guys advanced to your championship. Hopefully you guys won this week. I know this is the first year, and I don't remember how long that I'm not in a fantasy championship. I'm only in 5 leagues that I was competing in. I made 3 playoffs, and I got bounced first round in 2 of them, and then bounced second round in our Tone Setters League last week coming off the bye because Christian McCaffrey and Ramondre Stevenson and Devontae Adams just decided to not show up. I don't know about you guys, but that was my experience in the fantasy playoffs this year.
Yeah, no, this week pretty much sums up the fantasy season in a nutshell for me. So I made 6 semifinals total. If we do include, Scott Fishbowl would be 1, but realistically 5 like league redraft / dynasty semifinals. The only one where I entered without a bye week, without being the top scorer or a top 2 scorer, without having 10 plus wins, is my only team that advanced to the championship. That team was 8-6 and was the 5 seed entering the playoffs. My other teams lost to the 6 seed as the 1 seed, lost to the 5 seed as the 2 seed. Like, it's just, I don't understand.
In my home league, the 6 and 5 seed are in the finals.
Yeah, dude, I really want to do a study this offseason, or like maybe we could, figure it out. But what is the data right now this year for bye week teams making the championship compared to years past? Because it feels like everybody who had a bye week just got absolutely fucked. Like, if you didn't have CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott in a bye week team, what are the players that would have contributed to your bye week popped off this week? Because like all of the top running backs disappointed. Like
Saquon Barkley maybe would have been
maybe, but
for my team in our Tone Setters League, Jamar Chase and Saquon Barkley did pretty well, and they were both on my team. But like I literally,
maybe,
the fact that I had a team of Christian McCaffrey, Ramondre Stevenson, Saquon Barkley, Jalen Hurts, who I eventually traded for Justin Fields because me and you made a trade in that dynasty league so that I could upgrade
Kittle too.
I had Kittle, and Kittle was obviously great, but I still lost because I played the Dak CeeDee Lamb stack against Doc.
Dude, in fucking in that home league that I was mentioning, the main reason, I mean, his team went off. He blew me out, but George Kittle, Devontae Smith, Cam Akers, all in the same team, all combined for like 100 points. And it's just like, sure. Fantasy, you want to slap me around, you want to pull me naked, whatever the case may be, go for it, because I don't know how to respond to that.
Yeah, exactly. So let's rip a couple comments here, and then we'll pull up the draft here. We got Spicy Hot in the background. Just full disclosure, we're not actually drafting this team because we're in Ontario right now. But Spicy Hot will be kind of ghost drafting for us. We're going to do some playoff best ball drafts. Before the draft starts, I'll kind of go over some scenarios in our spreadsheet, which is free for you guys to use if you guys do want to do these playoff best ball drafts. And for what it's worth, we are still running the contest. So I said when we were doing the contest in Buffalo that it would end Christmas Day. But in hindsight, that doesn't really make any sense because I'm sure a lot of you guys are very focused on your redraft leagues, your dynasty leagues, your fantasy championships. So we're going to extend the contest probably a couple weeks still so that plenty of you guys can get signed up if you haven't already done so. Promo code FSE at sign up and first deposit. You'll get 100% match back on whatever you put in. So if you put in $10, you'll have $20 on the site to play with. $50, you'll have 100 on the site to play with, and you could also win one of 5 free $50 on-site credits as part of this contest that we're doing. You guys know we're not a huge YouTube channel, so you have a very good chance of winning that. And you can do some of these playoff best ball drafts, and these are so fun. Like if Underdog was not a sponsor of ours, I'm telling you, me and Danny would be driving to Buffalo to do these anyway.
Yes,
because they're just so fun, kind of getting the crystal ball out and figuring out who's going to be in the Super Bowl and all that kind of stuff. And even though I like doing, sports betting against spreads and stuff like that, this is the most fun way to get, a stake into the action during the NFL playoffs, rather than just doing, traditional like playoff pools or whatever, because there's so much involved in strategy wise and figuring out what seeds are going to be playing each other and who's going to go off in each round based on matchups and that kind of stuff. So quickly, I'm going to rip through some comments here and then we'll get this started. Spicy Hot's got a 5-leg parlay trying to hit here. I'm struggling with this sit-start RB2 struggles. Yeah, I mean, later in the week, we'll be better asked for start-sit questions for the championship. We'll have our Friday video will be our wide receivers, and then Saturday will be our running backs rankings, and then we'll also have a live stream Thursday night before the game and Saturday morning and all that kind of stuff. Do you guys take Stroud and Young and Superflex if you have 2 and 4? I mean, it's really all going to depend on draft capital. I think Young is going to end up being the first overall pick to Houston. So I would say he's firmly in the camp to go second overall, potentially behind Bijan Robinson. And as long as Stroud goes in the top 10, I don't think he's outrageous to take at 4. But I'm not a huge CJ Stroud in fantasy guy. So if somebody's willing to overpay, give you a veteran quarterback potentially or a young quarterback instead of CJ Stroud at 4 for that pick 104, maybe you throw in like a second round pick on top of that 104 for like, I don't think you can get to Dak Prescott necessarily, but you might be able to get to Trey Lance.
The one that I'm thinking off my head that makes a ton of sense and that people have been pessimistic about because when he was on the field, he was a little bit disappointing and now he's dealing with that injury is trying to package that 4 and see what the cost of Kyler Murray is. Because I've seen some people that
Lamar
have said,
Jackson
like,
would also kind of fit that description as well.
Reason why I mentioned Kyler Murray because I've seen some people legitimately say like, oh, like, is Kyler Murray a top 10 dynasty quarterback? And I'm just like laughing because he's like, when he's healthy, he's legitimately not a top 10 quarterback, a top 5 to 6 quarterback. So getting that type of cost, again, you know that he's a good player. You know that he's really good in fantasy. Being able to leverage that pick that maybe somebody wants a CJ Stroud because he's younger and, you know, they're a rebuilding team. They want the longevity. Sure. I get it. There's less risk because of the profile, but I mean, we already know Kyler Murray's a good player. We already know that he contributes a ton with his legs, and we know that when he gets healthy, he can legitimately be a top 5 quarterback, like he's basically been since he's gotten drafted.
Yeah, exactly. So, let's pull up the playoff scenarios real quick, and I just want to kind of overlook these kind of things. So, when you guys are doing these drafts, it is important to know, you know, what is going to happen in the actual NFL playoffs, like what's likely to happen. So I have this spreadsheet. I haven't updated the one that I tweeted out last week. I will update it after this live stream. So if you guys want to do some of these drafts, for sure, I'll have this ready for you. But basically, I have the most likely NFC seeds ranked and AFC seeds ranked. There's a couple seeds that we're up in the air about, mainly the 7 seeds in both conferences. We don't necessarily know if it's going to be Washington in the NFC, if it's going to be Green Bay. We were under the assumption that Detroit was going to win this division, but Carolina beating Detroit this past week, definitely not ideal. And then same goes for the other side of the coin. In the AFC, Miami looked like the runaway favorite to be the 7 seed, but they're not guaranteed that spot because they play New York and New England, who are the next closest seeds behind them in the remaining games. And we have Tua Tagovailoa dealing with an injury and stuff. And we also, at this moment, we don't know who's going to win the AFC North. It's probably going to come down to Cincinnati and Baltimore in Week 18 when they play each other. Same goes with the NFC and AFC South with Jacksonville and Tennessee, and with Tampa Bay and Carolina. And there's, you know, head-to-head matchups that still need to take place in that situation as well. So, I mean, already made the playoffs. These kind of teams are safe to invest in just when you're doing these drafts because they already have a playoff spot. These teams are, you know, in the hunt, but they're likely to make it. Tampa Bay and Jacksonville, obviously being those division winners that are still up for grabs. And then the New York Giants being almost a guarantee to make the playoffs as the primarily going to probably be the 6 seed as well. And we also have a mix up with the Vikings and 49ers in the 2-3 seed because suddenly Green Bay, who the Vikings play this week, it's at Lambeau. It's a game that I think Minnesota probably is due to drop one, just given how they've played. They barely beat the New York Giants. If they lose to Green Bay and San Francisco has Vegas and Arizona, who are 2 of the worst teams in the league. Sorry, Spicy Hot. They're likely to be the 2 seed. And then suddenly that shakes up the seeding process. And then San Francisco is likely going to play, you know, Washington, Green Bay, or Detroit, or whoever ends up being. So definitely a lot of playoff scenarios to go through. We are going to actually get into this draft here. So we're going to go in and we're going to do a Mitten 2 draft. These are $5 drafts. All you have to do is, you know, enter the draft, and basically we're going to talk through some strategy as we get through it. I did a video last week talking about playoff best ball strategy. If you guys want to check it out, talking about stacking and correlation and, you know, all that kind of stuff, how you want to build out your Super Bowl prediction and also build up, you know, AFC and NFC contenders.
Yep. No, 100%. So we can kick that off, and you know we'll get through some comments while we're going through.
Give them a second. Okay, I guess we're just going to enter it right away. I was going to say give them a second so they can join. If you guys have an Underdog account already, if you don't, like I said, promo code FSE at sign up and first deposit. But we are going to get into this draft, and it looks like you're actually the final team to get in here. We will rip through some comments while we're waiting for this to get kicked off here. Good morning, boys. Good luck in your fantasy championship games. I wish I had one. I got one. I'm not in that many leagues. I think there's a lot of fantasy, you know, analysts out there that are in like 20 leagues.
70.
I'm not one of those people. I was only in 5 leagues this year that I was actually competing in because the rest were like, you know, rebuilding dynasty teams or whatever. So looks like we do have the 102 in this league. And we did actually hear some shakeup news that would affect these drafts for sure, because we did hear a report that Jalen Hurts may not be ready for the start of the playoffs. Now, I saw Edwin tweet out, Dr. Edwin Porras from Fantasy Points tweet out that would put his injury very in line to Tyreek Hill's a couple years ago. I think he went down in week 1 with like a shoulder injury and he was out 4 games. But even if that was the timeline, it's going to be, I think 5 or 6 weeks by the time that the Eagles would have to play a playoff game, because they also have a first round bye. And we're getting reports that Jalen Hurts might practice this week. I think I wouldn't be too worried about him like being ready for the playoffs, but I would be worried about him potentially being ready for the rest of the season. If you guys are still relying on him or trying to in week 17, I doubt he's going to play this week personally, but definitely discouraging hearing that he might not even be ready for the playoffs.
Yeah, like if he's not ready for the playoffs, again, you guys see the jerseys, you know where I'm getting at it, and you play a Dallas in the second round, hypothetically, and Jalen Hurts' shoulder is not 100%. Like, that is the type of scenario that if you're an Eagles fan, you are fucking petrified of. Also, just slam Patrick Mahomes there. Don't even think about it. They're spicy.
Yeah, that's an easy pick right there. I think the Chiefs, for what it's worth, you can continue, and then I'll get to my point.
Well, I was just gonna say, if that's the case, if you're an Eagles fan, you're probably hoping that you don't play Dallas or San Francisco, but it's unlikely you play San Francisco. Actually, I don't even think you can. You're hoping you play Dallas in the NFC Championship, because then Jalen Hurts could be fully healthy. Maybe hypothetically a Green Bay or a Detroit upsets Minnesota. You get that more easier matchup. Your run game can probably win out in that type of setting, because I will say, I do think the top 3 teams in the NFC right now, like, they are so close to the point where if your starting quarterback is any type of inhibited, could have a lot of playoff implications. So I am excited to see exactly what happens there. And I actually do think that there's a realistic shot the Packers or the Lions could potentially take down Minnesota.
Yeah, I'm starting to just think that the way that the NFC is going to go, it's either going to be Philadelphia, San Francisco, or Dallas that comes out of that conference. Like, I just don't see any way. Maybe I'm just being completely disrespectful to Minnesota, how they played this year, but I think they would lose to San Francisco, Dallas, or Philadelphia if Hurts is healthy in those matchups. So we're on the board here. Diggs fell here, and I think just from texture standpoint, you might have to go with him.
You might, but doesn't it limit your ceiling then? Because there's still a chance they play in the divisional.
There definitely still is a chance. I
might build out the NFC side now.
Yeah, I would say you go Pollard here. Probably is the side you'd want to go with.
Yeah, I would probably agree with that.
Yeah, you're probably not you're not going to get the premium stacks with CeeDee Lamb and Prescott or whatever, but you will. So the other thing, the thing I was going to get to with the Kansas City point is that the Bills and Chiefs are almost equally likely to have a bye week now, because Cincinnati and Buffalo play each other this week, which means Kansas City, if Buffalo loses, is going to be tied record wise. So in this side of things, do you go with who? I'll let you make the pick here.
Juju for sure. You got that stacking option with Mahomes. Get another option potentially for the Super Bowl, hypothetically, if you're painting the picture that KC plays Dallas.
Yeah. So there's a bit of a shakeup. I think when we did our drafts in Buffalo last week, we made the assumption that Buffalo, there were some teams where I made the assumption maybe Kansas City gets the bye, but for the most part, it looked like Buffalo was going to be the team that got the bye. We're 1 week later. Obviously, both of those teams won this past week, and Kansas City plays Denver and Las Vegas the last 2 games, which are absolute locks. Like, they're going to win those games. There's no way they drop either of those games. And then Buffalo playing Cincinnati and New England too. New England's not a guaranteed win either. Definitely not an ideal situation for Buffalo. They can still win both of those games. They're a good enough team to do that, but it's possible that they drop one of those.
I think the Bengals as a whole in these playoff basketball drafts are kind of depressed or suppressed a little bit in their ADP, because I do think that it's a 3-horse race in the AFC. I know everybody's going to say KC. I know everybody's going to say Buffalo, but I do think that Cincinnati's in that tier with the way their defense has been playing. It wouldn't shock me at all. Like, realistically, yeah, like, you would favor who has the home field, but there's a realistic chance that the Bengals could still get the 1 seed if the Chiefs drop one more game and the Cincinnati Bengals do beat Buffalo.
Yeah. So do we want to pick maybe a one-off here, because there's not, or do we want to just go with Elliott?
We could go with both, or we can go with.
I think a one-off Cook is good if he falls here, because Minnesota and Dallas aren't really likely to cross paths until the NFC Championship. So I think a one-off Dalvin Cook makes a lot of sense here. And again, the reason I kind of know that is because I've gone through all these playoff scenarios a million times, and I have team-by-team breakdowns in this spreadsheet. So if you guys are doing this draft, again, it's available for free on our Patreon, and I will update it after we're done this draft. Do we take Elliott with 26 here?
I think you got to.
Yeah, I think we probably have to as well. We're probably going to have to load up at wide receiver later on, maybe with some underdog type of guys.
Well, there's a lot of stacking options on Dallas. Also, hey, I talked up when we were over in Buffalo. I talked up, you know what? I don't mind mixing in some late darts on T.Y. Hilton. And I mean, if he does get the roll down the stretch, he shows that he can win on that third level, which, I mean, if you're getting that level of explosive play on a Cowboys offense that can score 40 on any given week, like, yeah, I mean, that's basically a last round pick for a guy like T.Y. Hilton.
Yeah, I would say one important thing to note too about the gauntlet drafts that we were doing in Buffalo. Tyreek was a top 17 pick.
Yeah,
fallen to 28 here. His ADP's in the late 20s because of the Miami situation with Tua, who's not likely to play this week. They could very easily lose to New England this week. Is it New England that they play this week or New York?
It's New England this week.
New England that they play this week. It's in New England, and if they don't have Tua, then it's possible that they lose that game. Yeah. Those teams that drafted a lot of Tyreek and a lot of Waddle and a lot of Tua could be very dead. And unfortunately for me, I have a ton of Jalen Waddle in those tournaments. So I'm hoping that Miami can somehow be the 7 seed in the conference, but definitely not looking good, especially for those teams in the gauntlet who are taking, 15th overall Tyreek Hill teams.
I do kind of, oh man, it sucks that we didn't have any Cowboys or Chiefs pass catchers. But I mean, I just really like the value. Oh, okay. Pacheco got taken anyways.
I think Hawkinson makes some sense here as a pass catcher because we already have Cook. You get a little mini stack there.
I would maybe Hawkinson Schultz on this turn.
Yeah, Schultz also makes sense too there. We do, again, the goal of this, it's a 1 quarterback, 1 running back, 2 wide receiver / tight ends, 1 flex. So you need to be able to field 5 players hypothetically in your Super Bowl scenario. Right now, we would have Patrick Mahomes, Juju on the AFC side, and then Tony Pollard, Elliott on the NFC side. Maybe if we grab Hawkinson as well, then there's a possibility that we just load up the NFC side of things. We get a shootout in the NFC Championship. I would go with probably Schultz first, I think.
Check who that guy has, Chowder.
Yeah, who does Chowder have? Does he have Jefferson or anything? Okay, look, so he needs an NFC team, though, so I guess
he's going to take Ayuk. He's going to take Ayuk.
Yeah, I would say he's probably going to take Ayuk as well.
Go Schultz for the safety.
Go Schultz first.
I mean, he's got to take Ayuk.
He's more important to our team, so.
Yeah. And I mean, worst case scenario, if Hawkinson goes, we just go Gallup.
Yeah, fair enough. Thankfully, the thing I like about stacking the Chiefs in these contests is that the Chiefs have a ton of dart throws that you can take at wide receiver that can provide you with spike weeks like McCole Hardman and Kadarius Toney and some of these dudes that are going late. So I would say Hawkinson needs to be the pick here.
That guy has what?
This guy's got five bills.
I respect it. I'm surprised he didn't go with Hawkinson considering he had Debo, though. I'm not going to lie.
Who did he end up going with? Isaiah McKenzie? Yeah, that's, I mean,
how do you go with McKenzie over Ayuk?
Yeah, 5 bills with the Bills. I mean, a good chance that they have the bye week. That's a little sketchy in my opinion. I'm going to rip through some comments if we can while we wait for our next pick here. I'm just going to pick out the easy ones here. Looks like Smooth Criminal is in the Puppy 3 finals. So you love to see that.
Let's go, bro.
Me and Danny both had our Best Ball Mania dreams die last week. Unfortunately, I finished like 9th, I think, in my heat.
I finished like 6th, I think, but I had like some leverage pieces that would have been great to advance. Like I had Cam Akers on that team. It's just my main guys didn't show up. Like Christian McCaffrey didn't show up. Tyreek Hill didn't show up. My tight end scoring output.
My running backs were awful, bro. Josh Jacobs and Kenneth Walker and Kareem Hunt and Alex Madison, the guys that I had at running back, just did nothing.
A 5.8 entered my lineup at tight end this week because Dalton Schultz did nothing.
I think my running backs both scored like 7 points, or something like that. Like just brutal. My wide receivers weren't bad because I had Jefferson and I had some other guys. I had Kittle as my tight end, Schultz is one of my tight ends, and I can't remember who my other tight end was, but they had like decent weeks, and both my tight ends were scoring points for me, which is never usually a good sign in those finals. So, do we debate grabbing a naked Lamar here in case Mahomes has a bye, or do we want to just kind of assume he doesn't?
I would rather get an NFC one off, but I would wait on that.
Okay. So who do we grab here? Do we want to grab like maybe some first round production with Chris Godwin or Mark Andrews?
I don't mind Hardman either. Because if he's back in the playoffs, he has that big play potential.
Let's grab Hardman here. Or do we grab Thielen instead?
I think Hardman's more beneficial to the stack. And then maybe if Thielen falls back, but we don't want to overdo it on the Vikings because
I don't think it's a bad strategy because then we can be like either way we'll have 5 players in the Super Bowl, right? We'll have Mahomes and Juju and Hardman on the Chiefs side of things. We'll have Pollard, Elliott, Schultz on the NFC side of things, and then also Cook, Hawkinson, and Thielen on the NFC side of things if the Vikings were to make the Super Bowl. I don't know if you want to like double condom yourself that way, but if you get a high-scoring NFC championship, then that'll help you advance a team there, right? Because yeah, it's difficult, but I think Thielen makes a lot of sense here. We can go a different direction if you want.
I don't mind going with Thielen here. And then we probably got to close off with a Cowboy receiver, right?
I don't think we necessarily have to.
Right now, we only have 3 possible receiving options if it was Cowboys versus Chiefs. Though if it was Vikings versus Chiefs, theoretically, you would have 4.
We'd have Cook.
So
we'd also have Cook too.
Yeah.
I don't think we need to stack up the Super Bowl at all. I think I'd be worried about getting out of the first round. And these Mitten 2s, for what it's worth, the Mitten 1 was a 2 out of 6 advance rate in the first round. And the Mitten 2, I believe, is 1 out of 6, right?
I didn't even realize that.
But I'm almost certain that the Mitten 1 or the Mitten 2 is 1 out of 6 advances in the first round. Can you go to the rules by chance, Spicy Hot? On the like I button there? I think it might say the little I beside turn on autopilot. Okay, so
it's a $50,000 for first, so probably yeah.
Does it say advance if you scroll down? Maybe like who advances?
No, it doesn't.
Rules. I'll look it up on Underdog. Yeah. I'm almost positive it is that 6 people or that only 1 out of the first 6 advances. So you do need to be concerned with first round production. So even in the case of Mahomes not being on bye, I still think we should maybe grab a first round piece with one of our last picks here.
Yep. So
I think Lamar makes a ton of sense if he falls.
Yeah, I'll let you make that. I would say Lamar or Trevor then, because it's very unlikely that Trevor plays against the Chiefs, even if they don't get the bye. And
right,
you still got the injury question marks with Lamar. You still got the pass catcher question marks. At least with Trevor, I know that offense is playing extremely well. But I'll let you make the pick.
I think texture-wise, it makes sense to just go with Lamar because he fell so far past ADP. So I would go with Lamar here.
In 2 ships, facing Eckler and Connor with JJ and Kittle in 1, and exact opposite in the other. Oh, that is pain.
I hate that, man. I remember I played 2 years ago. I played against Kamara when he had the 6 touchdown game, and I played with Kamara in the other league, but I actually somehow won both. It was crazy.
We will be sweating it out together, yes sir. Let's go, Toronto Dave. I made the ship without Lamar and Cup. Let's fucking go.
I think he's referring to our listener dynasty league where he's been
absolutely
without those guys.
Who's he playing against? Daddy Flex Squad?
Gotta be, right?
Yeah, surely, right? Let me just take
those
a look.
2 guys were. I mean, like I knew I was kind of clear third in line behind those 2 guys as like the third contender, and I was hoping one of them would get bounced and I could get lucky against the other. Which is, sometimes the dangerous thing about dynasty leagues, right? Because even though I consider myself the 3rd best team, I couldn't realistically say like I'm going to beat Nate or Daddy Flex God in the playoffs unless I just got really lucky. Of course, it's fantasy football and there's variance, and I think this past week was a perfect example of that. But at the same time, when you're planning to like contend in a dynasty league, you usually want to be able to say I could beat any team in this league.
Yeah, no, I agree. I had Hopkins and Pittman and got bodied by Akers. Yeah, Akers just fucking went off. My big dog team was nasty, but lost this week because its quarterbacks were Hurts and Ryan. Yeah, that's pain as fuck. Is Cam Akers a sneaky play this week? I mean, with the volume, with the touchdown roll or goal line roll that he's been getting, Chargers have been a run sieve. Like, yeah, I don't mind.
Yeah, he's absolutely. He's more than a sneaky play. I think he'll probably be a top 24 running back.
Yeah, no, 100%. So I'm suffering. Yeah.
Also, kind of sucks that my 22% Cam Akers that I had in Best Ball Mania 3, I couldn't advance any Cam Akers, which is unfortunate.
The one I advanced, literally everybody else on the team fucking let me down. So could you imagine I advanced Cam Akers to the finals?
Oh, dude, my best team would have a chance to hit the nuts this week, because I remember when I tweeted out my 3 favorite Best Ball Mania teams that advanced to the wild card or to the Week 15 round. I lost. I came in 2nd place, but I had like just the most disgusting correlation in Week 17. It was like a Watson, Justin Jefferson. I advanced to Cam Akers. I advanced Elijah Moore, Deontay Johnson, and Michael Pittman Jr. I had a bunch of like really low advance rate players with a couple studs. I had George Kittle on that team. I had Mahomes and Kelce on that, George Kittle and Mahomes on that team, which was kind of unique as well. So I got really screwed out of that one. Coming in 2nd.
I was able to advance 2 out of 3 teams to the playoffs and one of those playoff teams to the finals. Thank you guys for all the content. You guys are the best. Appreciate the support there, Omar, and good luck in the finals there. What's up, y'all? Jacksonville Jaguars, New York Giants, or New England Patriots defense this week?
New England's at home against Teddy Bridgewater. I like New England the most there.
I was just going to say that, yeah. I have Lance in this league. I have picks 102, 104, 106. Yeah, no, you are loaded there, Bowen. Mike, I don't know why I said Bowen. My B just got Underdog a few days ago. Can you explain real quick how these drafts work? Saw the Mitten 2 announcement stuff, so I might join.
I mean, hopefully that was somewhat of an indication of how they work, what we just did going through the draft. We're going to do another one here. So if you want to join up G16, you just got to time it with us when we go to drafts. When we're hitting yes on enter, if you just hit yes at the same time, you'll be able to get a good idea. I did an entire breakdown of how these drafts work last week. If you want to go watch that video as well. So definitely go check that stuff out. But again, these are extremely fun. Like they're super fun to do. These mittens are only $5 drafts and, $50K to first. And they're a good way to get some action on the NFL playoffs if you guys are not like betting or whatever.
Yeah, no, for sure. So before we enter that, let's just get through all these comments that are currently here.
Yeah, let's just rip through
Shout out Edwin. Yes, sir.
Yeah, asking the Kyler owner if he's interested. Yeah, I think if you're at a point in the draft where you're at like 104 to 106 range, and there's still quarterbacks to be had, and you're not a fan of Will Levis or Anthony Richardson or even CJ Stroud potentially, I would say that your best option is to trade for a veteran quarterback, and Kyler Murray and Lamar Jackson will probably be the two that come at the biggest discount of the elite options. And then, behind those guys, I still think it's probably feasible that you want to trade for potentially an older quarterback like Dak Prescott or something as well. If people are super high on the young quarterbacks, because for the most part, if CJ Stroud or, Bryce Young or some of these guys hit as young quarterbacks, they are going to vault up dynasty rankings. But knowing what we know about those quarterbacks, we know that they're not Konami code guys like Justin Fields, Jalen Hurts or whatever that can suddenly become top 5 picks. Like if CJ Stroud, let's say CJ Stroud, his rookie season, he goes to, let's say Detroit, and Jared Goff is, bad at the beginning of the season. They bench him for CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud comes out and he looks like, I don't know, what's his ceiling range of outcomes?
Ceiling range of outcomes?
Like how good of a player could he be his rookie season?
Jared Goff?
As good as Tua was this year?
Jared Goff? I don't think he can be like Tua this year.
Let's say he's at he hits the fucking nuts. He's as good as Tua was this year because Amon-Ra's a stud and J-Mo's a stud, and he just has all these great weapons around him, and they're elevating his play. How high does CJ Stroud go in startup drafts next year? Like back in the first, maybe
early second.
Yeah. So
I still don't see him going out of
Dak. With CJ Stroud, he probably still wouldn't go over Kyler Murray. He wouldn't go over Lamar Jackson. He wouldn't go over these guys.
I would take Trey Lance over him.
Yeah, I'm still a little shaky on Lance, just given the job security situation and how well everybody else that plays for San Francisco is playing outside of him. I mean,
if anything, that should give you more. If anything, that should give you more excitement, because if he's returning in a situation where it's almost impossible for him to fail, which has been shown. I mean, Brock Purdy, Mr. Relevant, is doing well. Jimmy Garoppolo doing well. Oddly enough, the advanced metrics between Purdy and Garoppolo are almost identical, which is hilarious. It just kind of shows
my worry is the mental side of things, because Purdy had so much starting experience in college and he was an older prospect coming out, whereas Lance was a guy that took a year off and then sat a year behind Jimmy Garoppolo. I'm just worried that mentally he needs to catch up or whatever, which is still a concern for him. Sit one full PPR again. I would ask this question later on in the week when we know a lot more information, but I would say the guy that I'm leaning towards sitting, given that Mike White's coming back, I'd probably lean towards sitting ETN this week.
Oh, I'm not sitting ETN against the Texans.
Oh, yeah, I guess it's against the Texans. This is why I say you should wait until later in the week to ask the questions, because I don't even know who these guys are playing.
The reason why I knew that off heart is because I know I on my team that I have in the championship, I have ETN. So, yeah, that'll be fun. Yeah, you're definitely not sitting him against that defense.
Yeah. Okay. So Spicy Hot, you can hit the enter button here, and then we'll get into this. So give him 5 seconds here. If you guys are on Underdog and you want to join this Mitten 2 that we're about to enter, just click yes in 2 seconds. Just count to 3, Spicy Hot, and then hit yes, and then we'll get right into another one of these. Worst case Ontario. Shout out Toronto Dave. Would you start Ayuk or Chark at the wide receiver 2 spot? Ayuk. I would be going Ayuk there.
Also, which of these 3 defenses do you trust? Dallas, New York Giants, or Jags? Yeah, I'm going with Dallas. 10-point road favorites, 40.5 over under game, I believe. What would that make it? So the
Titans are implying
15 points. Yeah, Malik fucking Willis at home.
Malik Willis looks absolutely awful.
He's terrible.
He looks bad, man. He was gonna always need time as a prospect, but he's looking I saw an EPA chart per play, and he's worse than Zach Wilson so far. So if that tells you how bad Malik Willis has been, it's that bad.
Yeah. By the way,
he needs to run more, man. That's what they need to do with him.
Call me if this is off base, but I think I'm really digging some type of Cincinnati and then one of the top 3 NFC teams combo. I don't see many people advocating for Chase going 104, but I feel like it's a sneaky build because, I mean, you can get Chase, then you can maybe get, a Burrow, a Pollard, or a CeeDee Lamb or someone like that if you want to build the Cowboys, or if you want to build, the Eagles, you can go Sanders or A.J. Brown. You have a lot of options at that
Chase
203.
Burrow in the second round too.
Chase Burrow, yeah, like I'm really warming up to the Bengals stack because, again, I do think that you can argue them being the best team in the AFC right now.
Yeah, I mean, aside from like the exposure I have to Detroit and the exposure I have to Miami from the drafts that we did in Buffalo, I'm really happy with how my like exposure kind of played out, because I do think like it's a top 3 in both conferences, and both of those teams, like 2 teams will come from each conference, or 1 team will come from each conference from that top 3. I don't see any, super unlikely runs to the Super Bowl happening in either conference. I think one of Cincinnati, Buffalo, or Kansas City will be the AFC representative in the Super Bowl. And honestly, I'd almost be willing to bet money that those are 2 of the AFC championship teams as well.
Agreed.
And then same goes for the NFC side of things with San Francisco, Dallas, and Philadelphia. I just think we're going to get some combination of those 6 teams.
And I'll lock in that the NFC championship is going to be 2 of those 3 teams.
Yeah. Oh, especially in the NFC between those guys. And I think Minnesota is probably the clear 7 behind those guys, but like it's still not like exciting.
I don't even know, man. Like
okay, who do we want here? Chase or Hurts?
Let's go Chase this time. Let's go Chase. Let's mix it in.
Okay.
And because, I mean, theoretically, from a game theory perspective, because you pass on Hurts at the 104 there, you're probably not building out the Eagles the rest of the way.
No, you're probably going to lean Cowboys, hoping that they get bounced in round 2. Yeah. When you're doing these drafts, another like strategy point is to probably make it so that when you make bets on things, ergo, we pass on Jalen Hurts, we take Jamar Chase, you're inherently making a bet that the Eagles are probably not going to go far, because if they do, then you're probably torching this team because you drafted Jalen, or you didn't draft Jalen Hurts and you passed on him for Jamar Chase. So the smart thing to do would be to bet the opposite scenarios. Like, how do the Eagles fail? Probably their best, or the quickest way for them out of the playoffs is to lose round 2 to Dallas.
Yeah, no, I agree. So if that's the case, do you want to go Lamb here and hope Burrow falls back with Dak as a fallback?
I would say we go Lamb here and hope one of Dak or Burrow falls back. Yeah,
that's exactly what I agree with. Side notes: CeeDee Lamb in the last 7 games. I know it's a very arbitrary split, but since the Green Bay game, this guy's averaging 7 receptions, 93 yards, and 0.6 touchdowns a game, which would be about 21 PPR points per game. Pretty. I know, again, arbitrary split, but anytime I could talk about the Cowboys, I will.
Yeah. Also, I saw this, Cody, and I mean, Gross. Mike Renner does decent work or whatever, but I mean, we're ranking a senior 5'7", 175-pound receiver over the Biletnikoff winner in 2021, a guy who maybe not outproduced, because the splits would suggest that when JSN, Olave, and Garrett Wilson were all on the field, their production was pretty similar, and Josh Downs, who's been a very productive guy for the last 3 years. I think Zay Flowers is a fine guy to target in like mid-second, late-second rounds of rookie drafts if you really love the guy. But ranking him over Addison, JSN, and Downs is completely egregious in my opinion. Yeah, I haven't watched his tape yet. Maybe I'm going to love his tape as well, but he's undersized. He's a senior. His production profile is not great. Like, I don't know.
Who do you have at 1? QJ?
No, my 1 is still Addison. He's not.
No. Who did he have at 1? QJ?
He had QJ at 1.
Makes sense.
But he had Zay at 2, Addison at 3. I think JSN was 4 and then Downs was 5. I'm pretty sure that was the ranking, how he had it.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now, actually. I just found it.
Best 101 pick in these Mitten drafts. To me, I think Mahomes is probably the best 101 pick, just given that Allen might have the bye. But again, it's a pretty equal scenario in which they both, like, it's a 39% betting odds right now that the Bills have the bye, and it's a 38% that the Chiefs have the bye. It's like very close.
By the way, I'm very shocked that JJT guy did not go with the Higgins Burrow on the turn there. Because he took Higgins. Who did he get? He must have gotten it. Oh, why did he? Okay.
I guess he was like, I gotta grab. Okay, that's a weird build.
That is a very weird build.
Okay, so we somehow had Burrow fall to us, which is great right there. Not only is that good for our stack, it's probably decent texture wise if you get a Bills-Bengals, not a Bills-Bengals, Bengals-Cowboys Super Bowl, because I doubt most people have Burrow, Chase, and Lamb. And if we can somehow get Mixon with our next pick, I think that would be a really great pick too.
If we get Mixon, that's perfect. Fallback would probably be what, Zeke?
Yeah. Okay, the one thing I will say is, do we debate taking Dak also? Just because it would be extremely textured.
I don't mind it. The reason why I would gear away is because I don't think Cincinnati's going to get the bye. But I mean, if you're under the theory, okay, maybe
that's not why I would say, because like I think a lot of people are in that same mindset where, oh, I have a quarterback who's not going to be on bye. I'm just going to ride with a one quarterback build. I'm starting to think that 2 QB builds are almost smarter.
Yeah, it could be.
I don't know, man. I just think the quarterback position, you're trying to win the most points, right? Like the most points is what advances. The quarterback position puts up the most fantasy points of any position for the most part on average. And you also give yourself a chance to advance some unique builds as well, because if Burrow has a bad game one of the playoffs, but has an unreal run the rest of the Super Bowl run, then you advancing him using Dak Prescott in the first round also gives you an opportunity to do that.
That's very true.
To reap that benefit from Burrow's production.
With that being said, I don't think you can pass on Mixon in this.
No, build. I don't think you can pass on Mixon either.
If Dak falls back, then you get extreme texture on that, because I mean you're getting a guy.
Nobody would have Burrow, Dak, Mixon, Chase, and Lamb. That would be insane.
Oh, this team is looking fucking monstrous.
Yeah, and
right
Elliott
now.
Is probably our dream pick in the next one, assuming Dak goes, which he probably will.
It's a strong team.
Yeah, again, the reason we're saying words, for those of you guys that don't know too, the word texture just means a lot of people they'll be unique. A lot of people won't have those combination of players, because we got to remember we're dealing with a finite group of players. Everybody knows who the best players on each team is for the most part in these drafts, just given ADP. So you being able to stack certain players that other people may not have had access to is a good way to differentiate your team from other people's teams, because most of the time, I would imagine most people's Chase Burrow teams look like they took Chase 4 or 5 and they took Burrow with their next pick at 9 or 10. But for us, because we took CeeDee Lamb at 9 or 10 and we still somehow had Burrow fall back to us, a lot of people won't have that build, most likely. Or at least if they have Chase Burrow, they won't have Lamb. They might have like Pollard or something instead. And I think that's a unique way to get exposure to that Bills, or I keep saying Bills, Bengals, Cowboys Super Bowl.
Yeah, I agree with that. We got Fletsky in the cut. Sup, kids? How you doing, brother? How you doing? Just building out a nice little mitten. We got a Bengals Cowboys theme going on here, so we're pretty hyped up about that.
Yeah, so right now, my exposure in the gauntlet, my highest exposed players are like Dalton Schultz, Jalen Hurts, Joe Mixon, Brandon Ayuk, Tony Pollard, A.J. Brown, Travis Kelce, CeeDee Lamb. Like, it's very clear that I'm betting on the specific teams that I talked about. I'm betting only on the Cowboys, Eagles, and 49ers in the NFC, only on the AFC teams, the Bills, Chiefs, and Bengals. And I think a lot of people will gravitate towards last year's data, as I've kind of already talked about, where they'll be like, oh, 2 4 seeds made the Super Bowl last year. It's possible that like the Dolphins make a run or the Chargers make a run. I personally just don't see it as likely. And I'm hoping other people have that thought process to try and get cute and try and get differentiated with taking those 6 and 7 seeds in the AFC and NFC.
The only teams I honestly think like have a chance to win multiple playoff games both reside in the AFC, and both of the are the Chargers and the Jags. Because those are the only ones I can convince myself, maybe they could plausibly go on a run. Because I mean, anybody in the NFC, I mean, realistically, the 6-7 is not going to compete. Minnesota, yeah, they're the 2 seed, but I don't think they're going to beat San Francisco. I don't think they're going to beat Philadelphia. I don't think they're going to beat Dallas. At least on the other end, we do have the superstar quarterback talent of Justin Herbert and Trevor Lawrence that could potentially upset a team. White. Yeah, exactly. That could potentially upset a team. Ezekiel Elliott is the pick here.
The easy pick here.
Yeah, all day. This team is looking monstrous.
This is a lethal team. This is a really lethal team, because I mean, we already have our Super Bowl built out, right? Like theoretically, that's a Super Bowl roster that we can build out, because we have 5 players, which is the end goal of these tournaments here. I know it's not necessarily. I was going to say I know it's not necessarily smart, given that we have Dallas stacked up, but I was like not opposed to taking Miles Sanders with our next pick, just because. If he has a big value, if he had a divisional round game that was like bonkers and Dallas ended up winning, then you would get that advance rate kind of thing, similar to what we saw with Gabriel Davis last year, right? Because Gabriel Davis had the monster game in the divisional round. Obviously, Buffalo lost and Kansas City went on to the AFC Championship, but a lot of people needed Gabriel Davis to advance into that game. And I think there's going to be a player this year potentially that has a monster divisional round that gets people to the AFC and the NFC Championship games. And if you have them in your build as a one-off or whatever, then obviously that's going to be huge.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. What do you think about like Dalton Schultz here, maybe?
Yeah, Schultz would probably be my pick here. And then we can maybe start stacking. I also think Hawkinson's not a terrible guy to go after if he falls back, because we probably should stack like an alternative NFC team, just as like, hey, we get a high scoring NFC side of the playoff picture, maybe a high scoring AFC side of the picture, something like that.
Yeah, I don't mind that either.
I don't mind making sure we get this team to the Super Bowl by taking a Saquon Barkley or something to get that first round production as well. Because again, remember, we only advance one of these teams, right? Like there's 6 players in this draft and only one of them will move on to the next round, so on and so forth. So you need to get out of the first round. As good as our Super Bowl team looks right now, we still have to get out of the first round. And a guy like Saquon Barkley, even if he only gives us one 18-point performance in round 1, if he gets us to the next round, it's worth it.
The only thing I'm concerned about with him is if it is the Niners that he plays in the first round, it's going to be really tough for him to get going. Now, if it's Minnesota, okay, we saw what he did this week, guns blazing, like that game's going to be shootout potential. But if you're taking a guy like Barkley, you're almost praying that it is the Minnesota Vikings he plays and it's not the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah. By the way, can you hear the vacuum going in my house right now?
No.
Okay, good. I'll just chill then.
Okay,
so Tyreek is a guy that also stands out to me as a guy that could give you round 1 production if they get into the playoffs. Again, it's a risk because we don't know if they're going to get into the playoffs, but I still think I think the Dolphins are, if they're healthy in the playoffs and if Tua's starting at quarterback, they can realistically beat any team if they needed to. I think Tyreek, if he falls here, is a good value.
I like Tyreek. I also like Mike Williams a good amount here. We know pretty much that the Chargers have an inside track.
The only problem though is that Mike Williams is very likely to play the Bengals in the first round.
I think that the Ravens are going to drop a game, and if that happens, the Chargers have the tiebreaker on them.
Agreed. I think Tyreek Hill is who I would go with.
I think you have to because of texture, 100%.
Because of texture, and also we know that like it's almost a guarantee that they won't cross paths until the AFC Championship, the Bengals, because if the Dolphins somehow pulled a miracle and upset the 2 seed, primarily Kansas City or Buffalo, whoever doesn't get the bye, in the first round is the 7 seed, then that would kill all those teams, right? That would kill the Kansas City teams, kill all the Buffalo teams if they were the 2 seed and they lose. If Miami somehow went on a miracle run to beat both of those teams en route to the AFC Championship, and you have Tyreek Hill, who we know if they win those games is going to be a major part of that from a fantasy perspective. If we have an AFC Championship with Burrow, Mixon, Chase, and Tyreek Hill in it, that will be a monster performance to get us into the Super Bowl.
Yep, I would agree with that.
Again, we don't know if we're going to be right on these predictions. The goal is if we are right, we want to structure our team in a way that it makes us really right.
Now, question here: would you take a guy like Gallup, or would you maybe go with a one-off Barkley or a one-off ETN?
I don't mind doing a one-off Barkley as a berserker in the NFC side of things as well. I think there's a good chance that Gallup might fall back to us.
Yeah, no, that definitely is. I mean, worst case scenario, you can always backdoor 10th round like T.Y. Hilton.
Yeah, I don't know. Do you have a preference? I don't really have a preference here.
I would probably say, for me personally, I would go ETN. The reason being, I think it's more plausible that the Jaguars can get an upset in round 1 than the Giants. And realistically, I mean, the range of outcomes, like let's just say it's the Jaguars versus the Ravens or the Chargers, hypothetically. Like the range of outcomes of that versus Barkley against potentially the 49ers, like I think the risk reward is similar, only I'm going to trust the team that I think can maybe make it further.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll go with ETN there. We could have probably went with Gallup first, was the only thing. And then
that's fair.
Fell back to us. But my only thing with the Barkley side of things is that in the NFC, you get some exposure to a berserker in the NFC side of things versus
that's fair.
Kind of made the bet that there's going to be an AFC berserker with Tyreek Hill, or at least we're going to get like maybe first round production, second round production out of Tyreek Hill. If we had grabbed Barkley, then maybe we were operating under the assumption that Minnesota drops a game to Green Bay, they become the 3 seed, and the New York Giants upset Minnesota in the first round.
Yeah, that is very fair. Also,
kind of my only thoughts on that.
I mean, we might have to go with Waddle if he falls, right?
Yeah, given the bet we already made with Tyreek, it would make some sense. I don't know if we want to be overexposed to the Dolphins, given the how good this team is. I don't know if I want to sink it just by having 2 Dolphins on it.
Maybe Kirk.
Yeah, we could also the Cowboys and Vikings aren't likely to see each other very early on in the playoffs too. We could always just take a one-off Thielen as well.
Yeah, that's not bad either.
Yeah, would make some sense. Predictions for the listener league final. I would say, I mean, both of those guys' teams are really good. I think probably given injuries, I would lean Daddy Flex God's team over Nate just because Nate's missing a couple of his best players.
He's talking about the Patreon, I think.
Oh, is he talking about the Patreon listener league?
Yeah,
he's in both of them, so I have no idea.
Yeah, I think though he's talking about the one he's in the championship.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, it's close. I would probably slightly lean your side, but man, I just wish I got a shot at you, to be honest.
Yeah. So you're telling me my Giants are doomed? I don't think your Giants are doomed. I think they could win in the first round if they play Minnesota.
Minnesota, yeah, that's the dream spot if Minnesota falls to 3 for you guys.
Yeah. So the way that Minnesota falls to actually, we'll get to this pick first, and then I'll break it down.
We already made our running back bet.
Yeah, I wish we would have taken Gallup, knowing that Barkley fell back.
Yeah, fuck.
I would probably just roll with Adam Thielen here, I think.
Yeah, and then I think you have to go with a Bengal or a Cowboy with the last pick.
Yeah, probably. He's got him queued, so we're good.
Boyd's gone.
Boyd already went, I think.
Yeah. I already figured that.
We could go Hayden Hurst maybe with our last pick.
Or Irwin.
Yeah, Irwin, I'm not betting on him.
You're not betting on Irwin?
No, I would say Hayden Hurst is probably our best option.
It's not Irkin, it's Irwin. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, we can go Hurst. I think a Bengal probably makes the most sense because we want a second pass catcher.
Yeah. Do we have any? Yeah, there's nobody like I really like. I guess T.Y. Hilton's interesting, I suppose, as like a spike week guy. I just don't.
That'd be the only one. Yeah, I'd probably lean Hurst.
I would lean with like maybe you get a 2 touchdown performance out of Hayden Hurst at some point.
Yeah.
I think that's more likely than T.Y. Hilton catching a bomb.
This team is really well structured.
Yeah, it is very well structured. My only change that I would make is that I probably would have went with Gallup over Etienne and then Barkley with our last pick. But
yeah, it's calm.
Yeah, Hurst is probably the guy that makes the most sense. I can't believe Barkley's going to fall to someone at 58 or 59 or 60. That's insane.
What if he just doesn't get drafted?
That'd be interesting also.
Oh my God, he might not.
These guys, oh my God.
Wait, he might not get drafted, dude.
Who does this guy have? This J. He's gonna take Barkley. He's got to take Barkley here, right?
His team's just like all over the place.
Yeah, what is this guy doing?
I don't know. Is he? What's the Super Bowl pathing he's putting out there?
Green Bay and Buffalo, I guess.
Did Barkley go? Check that draft. I want to see if Barkley actually went with the last pick. I mean, if you're down, I'm down for one more, but I don't know.
Yeah, Spicy got to make a deposit if we do that.
It's fine. I'll send him the money anyways.
Yeah, let's do one more. I'll unshare your screen, Spicy Hot, so you can make a quick deposit.
Get through a couple comments since there's a couple here.
Yeah. Okay. So quickly, what I was going to talk about is the way that the 2 and 3 seeds work in the NFC. Is Minnesota and San Francisco are currently the 2 and the 3 seed respectively. Minnesota has an extra win on San Francisco right now. They're 12-3 versus 11-4. But San Francisco would have the tiebreaker if they had the same record because San Francisco has a 9-2 NFC record and the Minnesota Vikings have a 7-3 NFC record. They have not played head-to-head, so there's no head-to-head tiebreaker. They're not in the same division, so the next tiebreaker down is their NFC record, their conference record. So if Minnesota, who plays Green Bay and Chicago the last 2 weeks, drops the game this week to Green Bay, which is in Lambeau, it's possible that San Francisco is not going to lose a game because they play Las Vegas and Arizona the last 2 games, who are awful. So if San Francisco becomes a 2 seed, then they'd be likely to play, Washington, Green Bay, Detroit, whoever that is in the first round, and Minnesota versus the Giants is an upset spot, which makes Barkley really interesting because if the Giants somehow beat Minnesota, then you get 2 weeks of Saquon Barkley, who's obviously a very good fantasy running back.
It would be so Vegas for them to beat the Niners this week. It'd be so.
Yeah, they sometimes pull out those kind of upset wins. I don't think that's going to happen though.
I don't think so, but it would be so Vegas for that to happen. Playoff Gabe Davis, a different breed. Yeah, probably. Yeah,
I think he's ready. He's ready. So we can rip right into another one.
Last comment though, any Ramondre exposure? I have Galaxy brained a couple Ramondre, first round one-offs, but realistically, outside of taking him in the last round, like no offense, Flet, but I just can't see New England winning a playoff game. Never mind making a run.
Yeah, never mind even making the playoffs potentially. Too. I mean, it's possible that they beat Miami this week, but they also still have to play Buffalo in Week 18.
Yeah.
Right. Like their path to the playoffs is way more difficult than the New York Jets' path to the playoffs, where they play Seattle and Miami with Teddy Bridgewater, presumably in the final 2 weeks.
Yep. All right, let's enter this bad boy.
Also, hypothetical, does Geno still win comeback player of the year?
Yeah, he's got to. Who else is going to win it?
What if Barkley has a really good 2 weeks?
No.
Barkley betting odds suggest that they are even right now. That's like plus 150 for both guys.
That is ridiculous.
So you're going to put the house on Geno winning it?
I'm putting the house on Geno winning it.
Really, eh? Because it's plus odds right now. It's plus money.
I'm taking the plus all day.
Yeah, I personally think if Geno has a little bit of a meltdown these next 2 games and Saquon has just, continues doing what he's doing, I think he's going to win it.
Yeah, maybe. I don't see it though, but I mean, maybe.
This team is putrid. Yeah, the Patriots are fucking bad. Also, though, like sneakily one of the best secondary rebuilds I've ever seen. Though, like what the Patriots have kind of done with the guys that they've drafted, like in the late rounds in their secondary, they've kind of just rebuilt an elite secondary somehow, despite like losing J.C. Jackson and Stefon Gilmore in the last 2 years.
Yeah, no, that is pretty insane. Where do we want to build this one out? At the 5 spot's pretty interesting because you have more flexibility, I think.
I would like Hurts if he falls.
Yeah, if Hurts falls, I think that's an auto smash. I think if any of those 3 quarterbacks falls, it's an auto smash. The thing is, though, where do we go if he doesn't?
I mean, if he doesn't, maybe McCaffrey fell to us. I guess we could always just build out another boring chase stack, but
yeah, no, that would be interesting. We need to see more Jefferson MVP hype. Not gonna lie, yeah, he might finish with 2,000 yards. I could see it.
There's no way that Mahomes doesn't win the MVP though.
I agree. It's gonna be Mahomes, but I do think that Jefferson is basically a lock for OPOI.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd like to know what his betting odds are on offensive player of the year.
Gotta be like minus 900 at this point.
That'd be pretty high. I'm curious to know what the odds are on rookie of the years.
Garrett Wilson's the favorite, I think, for OPOY.
I think.
And then though Chris Olave's odds were pretty long, but if he's going to be out again this week, it's going to be tough.
Canada plays at 6:40 Eastern today against Germany. I thought they played in the afternoon for some reason.
There's a 4 p.m. game, but it's not us. I think it might be U.S. Yeah. Hurts just went, by the way. And
Hurts
Case
just
went.
Okay.
I don't mind mixing in a McCaffrey Niners.
Yeah, McCaffrey makes some sense here. I never get McCaffrey anyway.
Do you want to? Okay, so hypothetically, if we go McCaffrey here, hopefully one of Kelce or Diggs falls, and then we could cross San Francisco versus Buffalo / KC. That'd be ideal.
Yeah, worst case scenarios, we're looking at Jefferson or AJ Brown, which would not be ideal.
The only cringe part about it is imagine it does make the Super Bowl, and then again, we would have to hope basically McCaffrey outscores one of those quarterbacks, which is going to be tough.
Yeah. Geez, please don't take Diggs too.
Don't take Diggs. Yeah. Okay. We
Burrow for some reason.
That's even.
Burrow.
That's just as much of a sell. Yeah. Go with.
Diggs. You're going Stefon Diggs there. Yeah. Okay. Season awards. I'm actually looking at the odds right now. So Mahomes is minus 500 to win MVP. Joe Burrow is plus 600 behind him. Jalen Hurts plus 1,100. Josh Allen plus 1,100. He should not be at high. Justin Jefferson is plus 12,000.
To win MVP.
To win MVP, yeah.
What would you say?
Player of the year
minus 500,
minus 800. Mahomes is minus 500, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So Hurts' betting odds have went down the shitter since he got hurt.
minus 1,000 for Nick Bosa right now.
Really, it went up that far, eh?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he did have 2 sacks, and Micah didn't have a sack, so I get it.
I think too, some of it like is narrative-y, where it's whoever has the better defense. Too.
The better defense.
The 49ers defense has been more consistent all year.
And then people are going to be like, well, they're doing it with, Brock Purdy at the helm, whereas Dak Prescott's leading an offense of scoring. I want to say they're scoring like fucking 37 points per game right now since he got back. Like, it's fucking stupid.
Yeah. AP NFL comeback player of the year, Geno Smith plus 175, Saquon Barkley plus 175, Christian McCaffrey plus 250. Yeah, Jared Goff is plus 700 randomly too.
Okay. Well, how's that a comeback?
I don't know. Maybe because he was like written off.
Maybe he was shit, and then he's
QB too. So I guess QBs get some run. Okay, so we're on the board again here. Do we want to take a one-off Mixon because we have Diggs presumably in the first round, or we want to just go with like a Gabe Davis potentially or Debo?
Debo, 100%.
Yeah, we go Debo here. Actually,
Debo
I literally just skipped over his name like an idiot. So we'll go with Debo here. Are you interested in at all taking like a Mixon though, just given that the Bills and Bengals are not likely to play each other until the AFC Championship?
I'd consider it, but I'd probably personally rather a Davis or a Kittle because I know they're not falling back.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
The only reason I say that is because, again, I feel like most people will be of the mind that you need to just overstack those teams, and if we get a boom performance at a Mixon and a loss or something that could advance us, it might be kind of interesting. But
fair.
Yeah, I don't mind going just with Gabe Davis or Kittle here.
Yeah,
we're also going to need a quarterback for this team. I still
Purdy.
think we'll probably need one other than Purdy.
Yeah, I mean, do we want to go with like a Trevor Lawrence on the other side, or do you want? We could go like if Dak falls back the next week.
Yeah, I would say we can't take him here. He probably won't fall back anyway. Do we want Davis here or do we want Kittle?
I'd say probably Kittle. There's just more ancillary options that we can wait on for Buffalo that can give us some
and
spike
they're going to be
potential.
on bye too, so it doesn't make sense to. Or I mean, we presume, I guess, that they would be on bye. The offensive rookie of the year race, by the way, is Garrett Wilson's -170, Kenneth Walker's +340. Brock Purdy is third in odds right now for offensive rookie of the year.
What the fuck?
Yeah,
please don't tell me he's not ahead of Chris Olave.
Chris Olave is +2,500.
That's insanity.
Yeah. Brian Robinson is +2,500 also for some reason.
So Chris Olave, is he playing this week? Because I know he missed last week. Is he playing this week? Because if he's not playing this week, I get why his odds are probably suppressed because it's very unlikely to build on his resume. But if he's playing this week and he has 150 yards and a touchdown this week, and maybe 85 yards and a touchdown next week, like he still has a chance to fucking get it.
I still think this race, if you're going to take a shot on like an underdog to win an award, it should be offensive rookie of the year.
Yes.
Because what if Jahan Dotson has like 4 touchdowns in the next 2 games? Is it possible that he wins offensive rookie of the year? Because he'll have like a 10 touchdown season then.
He'll have missed half the year though. That's the thing.
He's 7th in odds right now.
I mean, if you want to put an outside bet on it, maybe like a tenner on those odds, I don't mind.
All I'm saying is, like, if you're going to take a bet on a player to come out of nowhere and win the award, it should be an offensive rookie of the year. Because if Dotson has, let's say, 300 yards and 3 or 4 touchdowns in the final game, so he'll finish the season with like 750 yards and like 11 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Like he has 7 touchdowns on the year. He's only played 10 games.
Is by the way, Spicy, can you scroll up? Is like a Singletary available left? Yeah, okay. Yeah. Singletary's got to be the pick if he falls.
Yeah, Singletary has to be the pick.
Fucker.
Damn.
Fucker.
James Cook's better anyway. It's fine.
Is James Cook, where's his ADP?
I think Elliott's probably the guy that I'd be rolling. Actually, do we want to go with Ayuk here? We got to go Ayuk, I think. Or do we want to go Elliott just for texture and running back's going to dry up and they're not likely to play the 49ers until the NFC Championship?
We could do that, or we can go with an Ayuk Purdy turn. I'm down for either. I'll let you make the choice here.
I think we can risk it on Purdy. I'm going to go. I want to say we'll go Elliott here and then hope Ayuk falls back to us.
Okay.
And if he doesn't, we just take Purdy.
Yeah, that sounds good.
I don't know. Do you think we should risk it with Purdy or just take him?
We got to take him. I think his ADP is so high up, and I mean, all these teams.
How many teams between us have QBs though?
I mean, many teams have one, and I wouldn't put it past any of these guys to take them. Like this guy, I wouldn't be shocked if he went here. I wouldn't be shocked if he went here. Check this guy's team.
That would suck.
Check Brazy's team. Dude, what the fuck is going on, bro?
This guy's building a janky ass team. I wouldn't put it past him to just take him.
Coach, what the fuck is that?
Come on, take Pacheco. You have Kelce. Do it. Why?
You are a cuck.
Okay, is it even possible for us to like advance?
We got a backdoor Chargers right now. We gotta go Herbert here.
We have no other option. I think you have to take Herbert first.
You gotta go Herbert here, and then you gotta hope Mike Williams and Keenan maybe fall, or at least one of them fall.
Yeah. So again, if you guys are in this situation and you're doing these drafts and you get screwed because some idiot takes Purdy for some reason,
that guy sleeps with the lights on.
You have to at least cover your own ass by taking. Bro, stream sniping. Yeah, literally.
For real.
You basically have to backdoor a underdog at this point. Because that's your only way of recouping this entry's dead, right? Like if we made the Super Bowl with no quarterback, we're not going to win. So you're not looking to like min cash these, like, because I mean, theoretically you could maybe salvage a min cash, but the point of these tournaments, if you want to go to our team spicy out real quick, we got Justin Herbert now at quarterback. The only way that we hit the nuts with this team, which is the only reason you'd be entering these tournaments anyway, because it's not plus EV to try and min cash a bunch of entries. then you should probably be just backdooring Herbert or, the Dolphins or the Lions or the Packers or somebody like that. Like, you're not going to get into the final unless you got a lucky team that makes a run.
The Chargers again, I kind of mentioned at the beginning of the stream, but the Chargers and Jaguars are my go-to like backdoors, because I can still paint a plausible picture in my head that if any team is going to go on a run from a wildcard team that's, an underdog, because technically the Cowboys are a wildcard team, but nobody really believes that they're a wildcard team, if that makes sense. But the Jaguars and the Chargers are clearly in that two tier, that second tier of playoff contenders. By the way, Mike Williams is the pick here, Spicy.
Yeah, Mike Williams definitely the pick.
They're clearly in that tier 2 where we know the top 6, but I would say that the Chargers and the Jaguars are right on the nips of that top 6. They would probably be in that 7 to 9 area along with Minnesota, and at least they have the superstar weapons, the superstar quarterback to potentially go on a run in more of a wide open AFC, I think.
Okay, so can we field a roster in the Super Bowl yet? No, we need a running back.
We do need
we have McCaffrey. So Herbert, McCaffrey, Debo, Kittle, and Mike Williams. So we can field a roster if we had a Chargers 49ers Super Bowl.
Josh Palmer needs to be the final pick of our stack here, though. Not yet.
Right now or on a later pick?
Later pick.
Later pick? Okay.
Yeah.
Or do Palmer we debate taking a second QB? Or no, we don't need to, I guess. We have Herbert who's going to play in the first round.
Probably not.
Do we mini stack Gallup with Ezekiel Elliott, maybe?
I don't mind that, or mini stacking
Knox. We can mini stack Knox, too, or McKenzie.
Well, I'll let you make the choice between that.
Trying to think bet-wise, we're making a bet on the Chargers, which means the Bengals are likely going to be eliminated round 1. The Chargers would then play whoever the 1 seed is, so that would be, we don't want to, that's the Bills, but I guess
we want it to be KC.
We want it to be KC in this situation. So I would say, I'd say Gallup is probably our smart pick regardless, though.
Yeah, I don't mind that.
Yeah.
Also, Knox just went a pick before us anyways.
Yeah. Okay. Over under 2.5 Michigan attempts. Yeah. So that game is on New Year's Day or New Year's Eve?
It's today. He's talking about the game today.
What do you mean?
He's talking about over under 2.5 Michigan attempts. He's talking about Michigan like the hockey move.
Oh, true.
Basically when you go behind the net and you scoop it around.
Right. I thought he meant Michigan like football.
That's at 4 p.m. on Saturday. So stay tuned for that when Michigan books their ticket towards the national championship. And I'll be drunk as fuck watching it.
Yeah, I mean, like that should be. And if you guys don't win that game, you're kind of trolling.
Sonny Dykes actually hopped. Sonny Dykes, the head coach of TCU, actually hopped on with Colin Cowherd out of all people. And I don't know why he would do this. I mean, kudos, I guess. But he basically said on air, he's like, yeah, we got to make sure that the quarterback is the one that has to beat us in this game against Michigan. It's just like, yeah, you could internally think that, but why would you put that type of bulletin board material for a team like Michigan who exposed Ohio State with that exact same mindset? Like Ohio State just said, I'm going to sell out, I'm going to stop the run, and Michigan threw all over them. Like if you're TCU, like, okay, maybe you're going in with that mindset, but why let Michigan know what you're thinking there, even if it's already implied? I don't. Sure.
Okay, so do we lean an advance rate player? I guess Saquon just went. I was going to say, do we lean an advance rate player like Saquon here? I say we got to go. Do we have 2 picks left, or we just have the 1? We have 2 picks.
Two picks. Josh Palmer has to be one of them. I would say.
Josh Palmer has to be one of them. If you want to go and just star him real quick, Spicy.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. Do we have anything that we can stack up on the
search Chargers in the thing? Just search Chargers. Yeah, that works. I just wanted to make sure in case he was gone that you could always go with an Everett, but yeah, Palmer is the pick for sure.
Okay, so who do we go with the other player here?
Running back.
Do we want to go with like Mitchell?
We have McCaffrey.
Okay, I would say go with maybe ETN. ETN probably is not going to cross paths with anybody that we have here.
Go with Palmer first though, yeah.
Yeah, Palmer first, yeah.
Just because Coach Breezy's been fucking throwing us for a loop. Gotta make sure we get ahead of this guy.
If ETN goes, we could probably go JK as well, because that'll probably just be the same situation.
Yeah, we could do that.
We're betting that the Bengals will get bounced in round 1 by the Chargers, so we don't want to go with like Pete Ryan or something.
I mean, this guy
he just went with Pete Ryan anyway, so this guy's just handcuffing his own running back like an absolute cock.
I mean, at least it's only $5, but he would probably do more service giving it away.
Yeah, no kidding. That bum Marquise Goodwin put up a goose egg and got hurt. Yeah, that sucks, man. I hate when that happens.
Yeah.
If Henry doesn't play tomorrow, do I play Geno, Brady, or Everett in my Superflex? Were you not going to play a quarterback in Superflex to begin with?
Oh, wait, no. I actually have Brady higher than Geno this week. Geno plays the Jets.
Yeah, I would be rolling with Brady there probably.
Yeah, no, I'd agree. And then go ETN here. We're set there. Comes my other quarterback. Should I start Gabe Davis for my
Davis?
I mean, if Olave plays, I'm going with Olave, but
yeah, I would also go with Olave over Gabe Davis, but I would start Davis over the rest of those guys.
Yeah, I would too. White is the one that's like a little bit disappointing for me because we did see Fournette like basically assume a majority role, and it's apparently gone on the record that Fournette basically called out the media and being like, "Yeah, if you don't know shit, don't report shit." He was talking about how he's been battling a foot injury for like the last month and a half.
See, to be fair, Fournette can say that, but like, you guys aren't reporting it on the injury report. So how are we supposed to know?
No, I get that, but like what I'm referring to is it probably makes sense why he's looked so bad. It's because he's
right. But at the same time, he can't be like, why is the media making fun of me for looking slow and, playing bad? It's like, dude, we don't know you have an injury because the NFL has no strict policies about reporting every injury to the injury report. So if you want us to know that you're playing through an injury, then you should tell the team that you should, be limited in practice because your foot injury. Like we're not mind readers. We have no idea you're playing through a foot injury.
100%. Geno, yeah, no, I would go with Brady personally, just because the matchup. Like if they had even matchups, I would go with Geno. It's just the Jets defense is one
it's in New York too, I believe. Yeah. Or no, it's in Seattle.
But like even if like the Jets are just
and Geno's kind of just playing bad lately too.
At lunch right now, wishing y'all good luck in these drafts. Appreciate that. We actually built out a few little nice teams. So if you guys enjoyed, make sure you let us know what your favorite teams to stack in these tournaments are.
Yeah, and again, if you guys want to do some of these drafts yourself, you don't have to put in too much to get some stake into the NFL playoffs. You want to deposit again. Promo code FSE if you guys have not already signed up on Underdog. If you put in $25, you'll get 25 free as 100% match back for using our promo code. That's $50. That's 10 Mitten drafts that you can do, Mitten 2 drafts, or if you want to just do 2 gauntlet drafts or whatever the case is. And then you'll also be entered for a chance to win $50 on-site credit. We're giving away 5 free $50 on-site credits. We'll end that contest around probably, just after New Year's or maybe before week 18 or maybe even after that. So continue to sign up if you guys haven't already done so. We'll probably be doing more streams like this as well before that time comes. If you want to get into drafts with us as well, it's the easiest way to do that. And so hopefully you guys enjoy the stream. We're probably going to head off here. Been live for about an hour or so. Tomorrow is Thursday, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, so I'll probably drop a solo video maybe tomorrow relating to like Dynasty of some kind. And then on Friday, we'll have Danny's going to do the wide receiver rankings for Week 17 for the Fantasy Championship. On Saturday, I'll have the running back rankings for Week 17, the Fantasy Championship. And then next week, we're going to start. I wrote down a bunch of video ideas. I farmed it out to the Discord earlier today on stuff that you guys want to see as soon as the season is over. A lot of you guys echoed that you wanted to see Dynasty buys and sells. I think we'll go probably position by position, maybe talk about some buys and sells, talk about guys who are like hard buys and hard sells based on our rankings versus like keep trade cutter, for example. We'll also talk about maybe some rookie class mistakes that we had that we'll kind of review the rookie class as a whole and realize who hit and who didn't. Lessons learned, we're obviously going to talk about that. And also somebody suggested that we recap our lessons learned from last year and see if we didn't learn from our lesson and made the same mistake twice, which I thought was a good idea. And then I'm going to do like a solo video series talking about like what we believed about each team going into the year and maybe what ended up happening. So for example, a team like the Philadelphia Eagles, we were very high on coming into the year. We were way higher than I think most people were. And we were right about that versus a team like the Los Angeles Rams. We thought they were going to be very good and we weren't right about that. And, this is X, Y, and Z, why it happened. Maybe injuries, maybe, whatever the case is. And we'll talk about that. And then the league winners video, I did last year. I did a review of it, but I might just wait until June until I do the league winners video series again to talk about who the league winners were from this year instead. So, and then also I think another video idea that I didn't actually talk to you about was some of the contending pieces that people could have traded for this year that would have worked out for them, right? Like, because we always talk about like going into last year, our motto was, just trade for like James Conner or Leonard Fournette if you need a running back, send a second round pick or whatever the case is. Who are some guys that people could have traded for this year that would have worked out as great contending pieces? And maybe the blueprint of those guys, like what were they? Like Jamal Williams, for example, would have been like a contending piece that you could have traded for this year.
Probably a third round pick at one point.
Pardon?
Probably would have costed like a 3rd-round pick going into the year.
Exactly.
As well.
Yeah. So like, what was the blueprint of those guys? Were they handcuffs? Were they murky backfield type of guys? And that kind of situation, because I think that's really important for contending pieces, for contending teams to know what kind of players to trade for. Because me and you are kind of always of the mindset that we would trade for cheap production over high end production most of the time on contending windows. Like it's nice to add a Devontae Adams to your team or whatever, but for the most part, those players are going to come at a premium cost versus trading a 3rd-round pick for Jamal Williams would have given you like borderline RB1 production for the first 14 weeks of the year.
I would say maybe, going into the year, a guy like Njoku, where he didn't have the production profile. He was kind of like, a risky asset. But if you studied the preseason trends, if you saw, he was participating in 80+% of the team routes in the preseason with the first team. He was getting a, relative target share that was surpassing anything he's done in the last few years. And then you see what he's done this year. So like somebody like that. Brock mentions Jerick McKinnon. That's another one. Perfect. Murky backfield, high leverage situation over there with KC, and probably cost it again, probably a 3rd-round pick at one point.
Probably
this year.
4th.
Probably a 4th.
Not even.
Yeah.
You could have gotten Jerick McKinnon for 4th. If I had Jerick McKinnon on a contending roster or on a rebuilding roster going into the season and somebody offered me a 4th-round pick for him, I would have taken it.
Yeah, facts.
Yeah, just building it. Like that's the easy way to build out depth, right? If you're a contending roster and you have a couple 3rds and a couple 4ths on your roster, you can send out 3rd-round pick for handcuff running back trades, no problem most of the time. Kenneth Walker, Devontae Smith, full PPR. I'm probably going to go Devontae Smith, given the tough matchup for the Jets or for the Seahawks against the Jets. Plus, Devontae Smith plays the New Orleans Saints, who've kind of just given up on the season at this point. Kind of makes sense there.
I don't know if they've given up on the season. They won last week, and they're 1 game out of the division lead.
Yeah, if they played the Browns just stink.
I mean,
I don't know. I think we're going to get another solid game out of Gardner Minshew if he's the starting quarterback. And Devontae Smith in a full PPR league, Kenneth Walker's not heavily involved in the receiving game also.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I don't mind that take. Hell yeah, golfing the Bills to win, save one of my teams when I went Eagles Chiefs. Need the Bills to get the 1 seed. Yeah, hopefully for you, brother. Are you staying away from Lockett and Debo if they are back this week? I'm not trusting them 1 week off their injury.
Yeah, especially Debo coming off of a lower body injury versus like Lockett was like a finger injury, right? He broke his finger.
Yeah. That's actually a cool idea. Basically, he was talking about like the best strats, the most advantageous strats in best ball this year. We can go over as well because
it's tough using that information going forward because it's a 1-year sample size. I think it'd probably be smarter to do it with the last 2 years of data from the Best Ball Manias.
The way I would describe it is maybe like the year in review of Best Ball and maybe some trends that we think are sticky versus some trends that we don't think are sticky.
We could be like, hey, like some of these elite quarterbacks were great because we think they should have been going higher, right? Like we talked about it all summer versus like, Geno Smith working out. Like, is that a sticky trend? Like betting on like a 30-year-old quarterback to be a late round QB that hits.
Rowan, I still got to go with the volume there of Ken Walker. I understand it's a tough matchup, but I mean, I got somebody that complained that I told them to start Ken Walker this week. Yeah, he didn't have a ton in the box score. The guy had 28 fucking opportunities this week.
Yeah, you give me 28 opportunities out of literally any running back, I'm probably going to start them as a top 12 guy.
Sure. Was it 0 RB or hero RB that worked? Was it hard to win without Kelce, the elite quarterbacks? What is the value? Yeah, no, that's definitely something we can look into as well.
Unfortunately, me betting against having an elite tight end season did not work out in my favor because let's say Travis Kelce got injured in week 1 and he didn't exist this year, like he was just out for the year. If Travis Kelce, if Mark Andrews, Darren Waller, George Kittle, all those like other elite tight ends, Kyle Pitts, had been the seasons that they had, my teams with Dalton Schultz and Freiermuth and all the guys that I loaded up on late would have looked a lot better because those Kelce teams wouldn't have lapped me so hard at that position.
I think that my best take was avoiding the mid tight ends, avoiding the mid for the mid to back end tight end ones and going for the tight end tunes. Because what that led me into was a lot of Njoku, a lot of Everett, a lot of those guys going outside the top 12. That
other than Kittle, I did not get a lot of Waller or Pitts. I got like no Pitts. Like I literally had no Kyle Pitts.
I more so meant the tier after. So like even like Dalton Schultz,
Hawkinson would have been a great guy to go after.
Yeah.
He had so many spike weeks that he really helped people.
Yeah, no. Hawkinson was the one exception, but after that, I mean,
if you asked me going into the year, would Hawkinson have been the guy with all the spike weeks? Absolutely not. I would have said Schultz was probably the guy with all the spike weeks.
Well, I mean, once he got traded to Minnesota,
get hurt, so
And then when he got traded to Minnesota, that completely changed the texture of the situation because we went from, a situation where we know where he's going to be in Detroit to now he's usurped an aging Adam Thielen in the target hierarchy there.
Also, I'm going to lock it in right now that the Vikings are going to draft a first round wide
They have
receiver.
to. They have to.
I just know it's going to happen. Like everybody's going to want, JSN or Jordan Addison, all these guys to go to different teams. And when they go to Minnesota, people are going to be disappointed because they know Jefferson is there. But I'm willing to bet if JSN or somebody goes to Minnesota, then we're talking about a guy that's going to be extremely undervalued in rookie drafts. And it's probably going to be like the 110 or something. And you can get him for free pretty much.
Yep. True. But I think the landscape is very unique with a lot of old running backs. Yeah, that is fair. That is fair there, Brock. I drafted K9, ETN Fields, all hit halfway. Yeah, that's looking good for you. What are the hit rates on best ball playoff drafts by week? Like, would it be worth it to wait until after this week to draft teams with more solidified seedings, even though everyone will know?
Right. This is the age-old conversation of playoff best ball, right? Do you draft now where you can get an edge on teams maybe that you don't know the seedings of? Or do you draft later when you know the seedings? My personal opinion, this year, I would draft later. Because this year, I think the top teams are going to be the ones that make the Super Bowl. Whereas last year, you had more dark horse potential. So last year, I would have said drafting early might have been your advantage because you could have gotten discounts on San Francisco 49ers and Cincinnati Bengals and some of those teams. But this year, I don't see a dark horse team making even the AFC or NFC championship, let alone the Super Bowl. So I would say I would wait. If you guys haven't done so yet, maybe, do your deposit, get access to the contest that we're doing, but maybe wait to actually do those entries until at least after this week's game so that we know, some of the seeding things, because you want to know if you're stacking up Eagles, if you're stacking up Bills, if you're stacking up Chiefs, you want to know who has bye weeks. You want to know who the Bengals are going to play in the first round. You want to know who the Vikings and 49ers, if they're the 2 or the 3 seed. Like, I just don't think it's beneficial right now to do these drafts early, given that I think both conferences are so top heavy.
Yep. Dude, Kelce teams are absolutely broken. It's insane. Yeah. Oddly enough, the one team that I got into the finals this year was a Kelce team. So that makes a lot of sense.
I'm pissed, man. I wish number one, I wish I drafted him in my home league instead of drafting who I drafted. I'm not going to name who it was, but instead of drafting Dalvin Cook. Like,
wait, you took Dalvin over Kelce on the clock?
I did.
Oh, no.
Again, that was my biggest mistake this year, was assuming I knew my league better than I did. And my league got smarter, a lot smarter this year. They all watched my content. They knew what I was going to do. And again, that's a unique problem to me because I make content, so they know my strategy. It's probably not a unique problem to you guys because you don't make content. But for the most part, I went into my draft assuming I knew exactly how my league was going to behave, no variance whatsoever. As soon as Dalvin Cook has a good week, I can offload him for the absolute farm. But not taking into account that all these guys passed on Dalvin Cook inherently, so that means they were lower on him too.
Yeah, no. Well, I still remember when you, I think it was Arnold or Dylan, when he sent me the draft board before you even told me your team. And I saw, I'm like, wait, no, that's got to be a typo. Corey didn't take Dalvin, did he? Corey didn't take Dalvin. And I remember I messaged you about it. I'm like, dude, did you actually take Dalvin? And he's like, brother, hear me out. And then as soon as you said that, I'm like, oh no, he took Dalvin. I want to hear the story now.
I got screwed. Like from the beginning, I didn't like where I was drafting. I knew all the players I loved were going to go off the board before me. I didn't love it. In hindsight, I could have just taken Diggs and Kelce and been awesome. But I also risked it too. With my 11th pick, I drafted Kamara, who was my 10th rated player, ahead of my 9th rated player, who was Diggs. But I assumed the guy who was going at 12 and 13 was going to take 2 running backs like Swift and Cook or Swift and Mixon or something like that. And I was going to get Diggs on the way back. So I had to take the opportunity to get my 9th and 10th best player on my team. Whereas my dumbass should have just taken Diggs first. And he said he wasn't even going to take Kamara because he was scared of the suspension.
Damn.
So definitely not a great spot for me this year. I have a lot to learn in my own home league personally. I'd say of all my leagues, it feels like I've had a worse fantasy season than I have, like just relatively speaking, because in my home league, the league I care about most, I am disappointed with my performance.
Well, the thing is there's been so much more variance at the end of this year than I've even been used to in recent years. Because like usually when I have a top team in the playoffs, when I have a team that's in a bye week, again, we mentioned this early in the stream, but they have almost been locks to make the final, right? I want to see the percentage this year of bye week teams making the final, because the teams that like went off in the divisional round in the semifinal this week were usually players that were maybe disappointing at some stretch of the year, maybe didn't get you a ton of wins, weeks 9-15 or whatever, but absolutely went or 9-14, but absolutely went ballistic this week. So I am curious to see what the data does present, because I know of a lot of leagues with a lot of teams getting upset, despite having, an 11-3 record, a 12-2 record this year.
Yep.
Sorry, Brock, let me clarify. Not the best ball finals in a league championship redraft.
Oh,
league.
Man, I wish I got my team to the best ball finals.
Dude, that just for the sweat alone. Could you imagine?
The sweat alone is worth it, even if you come in 457th out of 457.
100%. Considering JSN or Gibbs at the 103 in Superflex when I have Lawrence and Herbert, it's early, but I am nuts. I mean, if you have conviction on either of those guys, I realistically think that the market value between 103 and like 106 isn't really going to have a huge lean one way or another. So it kind of reminds me of 2020, where outside of, Taylor and Hilaire were basically the top two. But after that, I mean, you had a huge cluster of like Lamb, Swift, Dobbins, Jefferson, Judy, Herbert, Ruggs, like all those guys were kind of like grouped together, and there wasn't really like a consensus. Last year, for example, we pointed out, okay, you got Breece Hall, you got the receivers as the top four, and then you got Kenneth Walker on his own island, which we kind of at the end of the cycle said, he's probably closer to that top tier than he is to the next tier. Then we mentioned, that other subsection of Jameson Williams, Chris Olave, and Sky Moore. I don't really think that there's that level of, parity between picks 3 and like 7 this year because of JSN,
I think
because of
after Bijan at 101, I realistically think anywhere between 2 and 8.
I would say Young is probably like the set 102 right now. But if Anthony Richardson
for now,
goes
but
high,
if we get a first round Richardson, I think that's going to change things.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that.
Again, that's the talking point all offseason this year is going to be, what do we do with these QBs? Because the best 2 quarterback prospects are not fantasy superstar caliber guys. And the next 2 quarterback prospects after them could be fantasy caliber superstar guys, but are they even good? Like, that's where we're at with it's going to be the complete, do you draft floor or do you draft ceiling? Like, these are like, it's the pristine year to wonder that about a quarterback class, because NFL teams are going to be like, I just want the safe double quarterback. Give me Bryce Young. He's going to be a good quarterback in the NFL, but he might not ever be the best quarterback in the league. Or do we go with Will Levis, who could potentially be the best quarterback in the league, but he could also be a huge bust in the next Zach Wilson?
Yep. I took Swift and Kamara over Kelce this year. Pain. Some good futures bets right now are KC and Bengals to win the AFC. I'm not a fan of the Ravens simply because I don't think they have the firepower to be able to compete with some of those top teams.
Agreed.
Do you see them winning a 38-35 shootout against one of those like Cincinnati, Buffalo, KC? I can't.
No,
just because of the receivers.
I think it's possible they make it to the divisional round, but I think that's where their journey ends.
Like, could they, beat the Jaguars in the first round hypothetically if that's the 4-5 and their run game gets going? Though, side note, the Jaguars have actually been one of the more impressive teams against the run in the last few weeks. Like, they held the Cowboys to like 41 carries for 154 yards, held the Jets completely at bay this week. Yeah. Like, they've been a team that has really like stepped up in the trenches. So,
Agreed.
Like, even that, maybe again, I could bite my own words here. I don't think the Ravens are going to win a playoff game this year.
Yeah, you got the Jags are at home in that game too, right? Yeah. Like, it's possible that they don't even win that first round.
Yeah.
My top picks were Kupp, Fournette, and Connor. Made some trades and landed the 1 seed, but got bounced after losing JT and Kyler too. Yeah, I mean, in my home league, I ended up making my team much better after trading, but my draft is like, I'm disappointed with how I drafted. Like, my draft was terrible. Like, I should have probably been like closer to the loser punishment than making the playoffs, given how I drafted.
It's easy to lament now, but God, I'm just thinking.
Again, I'm glad I pivoted quickly when I noticed things, but like at the same time, I definitely should have drafted better.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It bothers me now because, I still was able to get 11-3 most points in my league. Again, I lost this week to the 7 seed or to the 6 seed. There's no 7 teams. You know what I mean? But then I'm just like looking back at my draft and I just see, the blip of Javonte Williams and what could have happened, or the blip of Michael Thomas and what could have happened, or the blip of Treylon Burks where he got hurt initially, then looked good. Then he got hurt and then he looked good again. And it's just like, well, fuck, now he's without Tannehill too. Like, it's a what could have been, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's how I feel about Breece too, man. Like,
yeah.
In two, like I had Javonte. Like, the other thing too is if I didn't take Dalvin Cook there and I took a running back, it would have been Javonte Williams and it wouldn't have mattered anyway. And then I traded Dalvin Cook for Breece Hall, who obviously looked like a great trade at the time. And then Breece got injured. So Yep. Like, how high does Breece Hall finish this year if he's healthy?
Top five, without a doubt.
He could have been the RB1 this year, the way he was playing.
Yeah, no, he definitely was in the range of outcomes for him. Went up against CD Kittle and Devontae Smith. Yeah, no, you're not coming back from that. One league, I lost Chase for a while, JT for a while, Emwell for a while, Trey Young for the season. Trey Young,
is that the wrong sport?
Yeah.
I'm
curious what he means. Trey Young. Who would he be referring to?
I don't know.
Maybe Kyle Pitts because they both play for Atlanta.
Maybe Elijah Mitchell for the season, Devontae. But yeah, sometimes you just get fleeced by injuries. That was my my big dogs bash team just got absolutely ruined by injuries.
Yeah, it's always that, Brock, dude. In my home league, I scored 149 points last week on my bye. I put up 107 this week. Like, it's fucking...
That always happens, too. I put up so many points on my bye last week in our Tone Setters League.
Oh, yeah. Brock said maybe he means Trey Lance. Yeah, that would make sense. Yeah. Sucks. Also lost Lamar and Goddard at the end of the year, but thankfully had Fields. Yeah, Fields was phenomenal down the stretch. And probably did mean Trey Lance. He did mean Trey Lance. Yes, sir. He did. So...
Yeah.
But
okay. So we're going to sign off here. We've been on here for like an hour and a half or whatever. Again, if you guys haven't signed up on Underdog, go back and, watch some of these drafts to get some idea for strategy. Watch back the video I did on the strategy for best ball during the playoffs. And again, be a part of this contest if you haven't already signed up. If you're in a state that's eligible, or if you plan on traveling, you can always travel to a different state and get some action on these as well. Promo code FSC at sign up and first deposit for 100% matchback up to $100, 5 $50 giveaways. We will be launching those probably by like week 18 or something like that to give you guys some time to finish out your redraft leagues, get some action onto this, and then we will be on our merry way. So definitely appreciate Spicy Hot for backdoor streaming for us here and doing our drafts for us. Appreciate you guys for joining us. I'll see you guys tomorrow with like a solo video of some kind, dynasty related.
Yeah, we'll figure something out. But either way, take care, guys. Enjoy the day, and go Cowboys tomorrow. Peace out.